Like, hey, nobody's gonna rescue you. My side hustles, they're like, done. They're gone. People will be like, fuck this shit. I will use this as fuel to my fire and I'll be so much better because of this. The world's not ending. Here are 19 lessons that we can learn from the coronavirus or COVID-19. The first thing is something that I learned from my mentor, Darren Jacqueline, and he says, when it's summer, you need to think about winter. You can't just behave like, oh, it's gonna be good forever, because it's not. Life has its seasons. And so if you think about the story of the grasshopper and the ant, the grasshopper, when it's summer, he just lives his life. It's like nothing's ever gonna go wrong. He's just happy-go-lucky. He just enjoys summertime. And then when we look at the ant is storing resources so that come winter, there's food for the colony and they don't have to panic. And so what happens when it's not summertime anymore? The grasshopper is suffering. The grasshopper doesn't have anything to eat, while the ants, they have something for when times are not so good. They're good for tough times. And so, because as humans, we do have a tendency towards instant gratification, we tend to be more like the grasshopper. And guys, I'm also guilty of this. We need to start thinking more like the ant. You can't just live paycheck to paycheck, because if you do, what happens, when the economy goes bad, when your hours got cut back? How are you going to get money to put food on the table? During these times, it's always the people who have prepared for this who are going to be doing well, while everybody else is more like the grasshopper. They're panicking. As humans, we have a future, and we need to start planning for that future and make the worst case scenario look as good as possible, like Ray Dalio says. And another thing that, Ray Dalio says in his book, Principles, is if you don't worry, then you need to worry. But if you worry, then you don't need to worry. You need to start thinking, if X worst case scenario, then Y contingency plan. And that's how you're going to be going through the tough times, is when you have already prepared for it before it even comes. The next thing is, I realized, and I'm sure a lot of people are realizing this, that you can't just have one source of income. You need to have multiple streams of them, because if you're just relying on your job and your job suddenly, is not needed anymore, you get laid off, then what happens? It's going to be so much harder if you just have one stream. And again, this is something that I just learned, because my side hustles, they're like, done. They're gone, because, we're self quarantined. And I feel like I'm really blessed to have learned this at an early age. But thankfully, I do have a safety net. My mom still has her job, and, I still have my needs met. We have our needs met, but not everybody is like that. There are people who literally, they don't know how to pay next month's rent. They don't know where to get next month's groceries from, because they just have one source of income. And when they get laid off by their company, it's going to be a tough time for them. It's going to be really, really tough. Having multiple sources of income also allows you to protect yourself from as much sides as you can. If you lose your job, then it's okay, because you still have some of your investments that can, give you a steady source, even though one source is gone. So it's like having multiple backup plans. That's really what you give yourself when you have multiple sources of income. Now, this leads me to the next one, which is you need to have a backup plan. We never really know when the next market crash is going to be. We never know when the next virus is going to be out. You know, having a backup plan allows us not only to not be panicking and to have peace of mind, it also makes sure that we're good, we're safe, we're not just thinking about next month's survival, and we're not in scarcity mode. Because when you're panicking and when you're in scarcity, when you're like, fuck, there's no more toilet paper, there's no more alcohol in the grocery, there's no more food supply, you're going to be panicking. You're going to be thinking about your survival. You're going to be fighting tooth and nail, as we've seen so many people have. That creates so much panic and creates so much fear in your head that you're not going to be able to think straight. You're not going to be able to make long-term decisions. You know, you're going to be limiting yourself to what's here, what's right now. And sometimes that doesn't really lead to you making the best decisions ever. Maybe you get a loan from a loan shark with like 20% interest rate. Or you do something crazier, which is, you know, you steal. Or some people, they become criminals because, you know, they need to survive. And that's the only way that their brain can come up with in the moment. And of course, when you can go to jail, it's not necessarily the best thing, you know? It's not necessarily the best thing for your future. When you have a backup plan, you get to protect your downside. And you don't need to live in a constant state of fear. Now, how do you actually have a backup plan? The most common reason why so many people don't even have one in the first place is because they don't talk about hard times. And this leads us to the next lesson, which is we need to talk about hard times. If we don't, we're bound to just repeat the things that we should have learned if we don't talk about them, and if we don't make sure that, you know, the people that we care about don't make the same mistakes that we have. And so when we talk about tough times with the people we care about, with the people that we share our lives with our family, then we're able to really prepare. We're able to say, okay, what if you lose your job? What are we going to do about that? And it just allows you to really go through this thought exercise that allows you to have clarity on what you should be doing if you are in one of those shitty situations. At least you have a plan for it, you've talked about it, and it's just not going to be as scary as it seems, because, you know, you're not just in the unknown. It's something that you actually have thought about, and it's something that you already have a plan for. The fifth lesson is to adapt or die. It's sad. A lot of businesses are losing. A lot of businesses who have been around for like decades, and because they're not prepared for this, they're just gonna die, you know? They're on the end of their life cycle because they haven't adapted. As simple as that. It's the law of evolution. So you either just complain about this whole coronavirus situation or you do something about it. Maybe it's time for you to have a new side hustle, a new business model. And we're seeing it, you know, some parts of the world are adapting faster than others. And so now we see online learning being available. You don't have to go to school anymore, so you can learn. We see unmanned grocery stores in China. We see deliveries by drones. These are all examples of companies and industry evolving and adapting. And sometimes it's going to be tough times that will encourage us to push forward and to grow as a human race. We're getting exposed. We're getting reminded that we need to prioritize our health. So the people who are like, oh, sleep is for the weak, and the people who have been taking their bodies and their health for granted, it's sad, you know, but it's the truth. They're going to be the ones who will have a weaker immune system. They're going to be the ones who will be more exposed. They're going to be the ones who are in danger. So you can very easily say that you don't have time to work out, You don't have time to chill out and to manage your stress. You don't have time for downtime. Well, in these times, it's going to be a lot harder for your system to survive. You know, the people who've neglected their health, they're the ones in the hospitals right now, suffering from contagion because they did not take care of the system, they did not take care of their health for it to be able to protect them in the best way possible. Now, if you've seen the toilet paper meme, you know that panic sucks the ability to think. And it shows us how so predictably irrational human beings are. But it's just ridiculous. People are fighting over toilet paper, and people are just hoarding and hoarding and hoarding resources because they're acting out of fear. And most of the time, when we're acting out of fear, our logical brain is shut off and it's not even thinking properly anymore. And again, it puts you into scarcity mode, which you wouldn't have been into had you had the contingency plans in the first place. What makes me, and I've had that time too. I was like panicking internally, and thankfully my coach Tatiana, she talked some sense into me and reminded me that, you know, it's not the end of the world. And that reminded me to be really freaking grateful because life is short. And I've been talking about how your next day is never guaranteed, and people are like, yeah, right, Angela, whatever. But it's not. Your next day is not guaranteed. You know, you could die in your sleep, you could be hit by a car. And so it's important for you to appreciate the life that you have. Otherwise, you take it for granted, right? And what I found personally is that the more I am grateful, you know, the more I say thank you to the universe, to God, to whatever name you want to whatever name it is for you, the more things and the more people I have to be grateful for. And we're just reminded to not take things for granted and to take the time to pause and to say thank you. Thank you that we're alive. Thank you that our family, our friends, they're healthy. Thank you that we still have food to eat. Thank you because even though the world is all crazy right now, we still have this one day. We still have today to live. We have today to connect with the people we love. And, you know, that leads us to the next thing. This is the perfect time to stop and to think, have I been connecting with the people who matter the most to me? Given that, you know, you don't know who the next victim will be. You don't know when your next day will be. Have you made time for the people you really care about the most? Because here, what I've been seeing is that people are connecting more. They're like asking each other, like, hey, how are you? But like, it also, you know, it made me think we don't do that on a regular basis when all is good, when we feel like, you know, everything is okay. Why do we have to wait for tough times for us to ask someone, hey, how have you been? Hey, I missed you. Hey, I love you. We act as if tomorrow isn't sure. We act as if, you know, we're gonna have all eternity to be on this planet when we don't. And so because we're not gonna be here forever, I feel like during these times when everybody else is just panicking, when everybody else is in this frenetic state of worry and fear, I feel like the ones who will emerge will be the people who have their eyes open for opportunities. Warren Buffett says it best: when others are fearful, be greedy. And when others are greedy, be fearful. And so it really depends on how you look at situations. You could look at coronavirus as something that will end your world, or you could open your eyes and see opportunities. People need more money now. Maybe you can invest in a lot. My mom and I were just talking about this. She was like, we need to invest now. Maybe we could buy a farm, maybe we could buy something, because more people need money now. And so it's not like we're taking advantage of them. It's not like we're taking advantage of their situation. We're actually helping them. Take a look at the most successful companies. They're the ones who used fearful times as an opportunity. They're the ones who took action. And because they're the ones who took action, they're the ones who came out on top later when everything is good again. Also, one of the things that you can use to your advantage is the fact that when people are worrying about their next meal, they're not really paying attention. And so you need to pay attention if you want to come out of this bad. It's either you learn from the situation and you use it to your advantage, or you decide to be a victim and be like, I'm not this because of the coronavirus. Speaking of you, one thing that I've also been hammering on about is being true to yourself. Because, yeah, right now you're young. You might feel like you have all your days ahead of you. But like you said, in these times, we just don't know. The people who would die happily tomorrow, I'm telling you guys, are the people who have been true to themselves. And I can speak to so many people right now who have become engineers, lawyers, architects, accountants, not because they want to, but because their parents wanted them to. Like, would you really want to die with resentment in your heart? I feel like now is the time, if you are in that bucket, if you are in that scenario, now is the time for you to talk with the people who you need to be open with. If you get hit by a bus tomorrow morning, if you get the COVID, you're just gonna have so much regret. In the book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, one of those regrets is not living life authentically. Living life according to others' expectations and not living the life they really wanted to live. And so I guess this teaches us, that if we don't want to die with that regret, then we better start getting clear on what we want, and we better start really living the life that, we wish we lived before we even die. I feel like a lot of people are killing themselves slowly, not because they have the coronavirus, but because they have the fear. They have so much worry that it's eating them from the inside out. They're not sleeping properly. They're not eating properly because they've been consuming media so much. And that leads us to our next lesson, which is do not over consume media. I'm not saying don't be informed. I'm not saying don't understand and don't know what's happening. You need those things. But do you really need to call everyone else and watch every news channel and see every update about the coronavirus? No, you don't. The media, their job is to inform, but really that's not always the case. Sometimes a lot of these stories are exaggerated. And guys, that's their business. They're making money off of fear. They're making money off of attention. And the only way that they can really keep and capture your attention is if when you're riveted in fear and when you're always worrying and worrying and worrying and you feel like you need to know what's next. You don't. You just need to know the facts. And sometimes maybe it's best not to just overly watch the news because it can just perpetuate that cycle of fear. And maybe you would even die because of fear than because you caught the virus. So go to health sites, go to health professionals, and don't just sit there on your couch watching CNN or Fox. Next thing I feel like this whole thing is reminding us about is to live humbly. When times are good and you've just been on the fly and you've just been spending and spending and spending above your means, when times are tough, you are freaking dead. you're putting yourself in a deeper misery than if you lived humbly, and than if you didn't just have a lifestyle that you really could not sustain in the long run. You just focus on being someone that you're not, or trying to look good when you're really not there yet. It's going to be a lot harder for you to connect authentically with people. And that's just going to be such a disadvantage to you, because at the end of the day, it's going to be your relationships, not the things you bought with money. You know, if you think about it, who are you going to lean on? Who's going to support you? Especially in tough times when you don't have anything to eat, when you need to borrow money, you're going to have to ask for support from people that you can really get real with and say, like, dude, hey, I'm just in a tough time right now. Can you support me? And the way for you to really develop these strong relationships is by not withholding love. If you got into a fight before this whole pandemic with someone, and I'm like preaching to the choir here, I just had a fight with my dad. I haven't spoken to him in months. I'm probably going to be greeting him on his birthday. But that takes me away from this point. You don't withhold love, because, you know, if you do, during these tough times, you're gonna be like, oh shit, like I can't go out, we can't hang out anymore, we can't really talk face to face, and you just don't know what would happen to that person. You prioritized your pride instead of your relationship. Again, you're gonna have regret. So I guess right now what you can do is to give as much love as you can to the people who are around you, to give as much love as you can to the people that you care about, to like really let them know that you love them and you care about them. And though sometimes you may not always be around to show it, that you know they can come to you, that you also remind yourself that you have people to come to when times are tough, that you don't have to act as if, you know, all the weight of the world is on your shoulders, because you have a group of people, you have a community, you have a family that supports you and that loves you. You need to take accountability for your actions. At the end of the day, you can't blame anyone. You can't blame the government. You can't blame the economy. You can only ever blame yourself. Like, hey, nobody's gonna rescue you. And every single time you blame something else outside of yourself, every single time you hate on something or you complain, you're giving up your power. And feeling powerless is not the best state to be in. And so the moment you start taking accountability, you essentially take control over your life again. Now, like I said, not a lot of us are in the same boat. You know, some people are struggling a lot more than others. And so if you are in a place where you have your needs met right now, and you're so lucky, I'm so lucky, you know, I'm so fucking blessed, and the least we can do is to have empathy for those who don't. They can't eat our empathy, but at least they have that, you know, moral support. Is we say like, dude, this shit is tough, I understand that, but you're gonna get through this, you know, just offer them moral support. Be empathetic, you know, it could have been you. And for by divine grace, it's not you. And we will get through this. As a human race, we've been through a whole lot of not so good stuff. And we've been able to get on the other side better for it. Now the choice is up to you. You can either use the coronavirus as an excuse, like I said, or you can use it as something that motivates you, as something that pushes you. The thing about trying times is there'll be a group of people who will play victims and will be like, okay, this is it, I'm resigned to my fate. And then there are people who will be like, fuck this shit, I will use this as fuel to my fire, and I'll be so much better because of this. And, you know, they create opportunities out of a messy situation. And they create opportunities even in the midst of crisis. And these people, they're the ones who always win. They're the ones who have a winner's mindset. They're the ones who will get through the rough waters in life. And they're the ones who are making lemonades when life throws them lemons. And so we need to set up lemonade stands and make lemonades out of these lemons, because this is not going to last forever. Like I said, we've already gone through the Black Plague. We've already gone through so many things as a human race. Also, accept that, some things will never be in our control. Nobody wanted this outbreak to happen. And what we can do moving forward is accept whatever mistakes we've made. If we haven't been able to plan, if we weren't able to prepare for this, my mentor, Darren Jacqueline, he has 2 months worth of food supply, and he has a year's worth liquid, so that that's his emergency fund. So when shit hits the fan, he's okay. And so if we haven't been able to prepare the way he did, what we can do is we can accept it. You can accept that some things are not going to be in your control. And the next best thing to do moving forward is to create a plan and to just let this, just wait this out. And yes, you need to take responsibility and take accountability, but you don't need to be so hard on yourself. You don't need to constantly beat yourself up, lose sleep over this, because, like I said, this is just another one of those things that maybe you needed to learn, that maybe we needed to learn. Maybe this was a wake-up call for everyone who's sleeping, and maybe this is exactly what we need. Instead of resisting it, maybe we just need to accept it and move forward. Those are the 19 lessons. There is one more bonus lesson, and it's just to remember that this too shall pass. Okay? We're not gonna be in these times forever. Hopefully this is gonna be ending soon, and the best thing we can do right now is to prepare and to plan our next moves and not to panic. Right now is the best time to pause and think, be busy being busy. All right, I hope that this has been helpful to you guys. I'm sending all my love and all my support to you. If you are in tough times right now, just remember it's not going to last forever. And think of ways that you can create opportunity out of this. You are a strong human being. You are more resilient than you think you are. And so it's going to be up to you. You're going to have to take action. I hope you learned from this, and I'm going to see you on my next one. Take care and be safe, everyone.